Hi, my name is Tiffany and welcome to my kitchen. Welcome back everyone to another episode. Today's tomato and sausage pasta. It is a recipe that I just came up with on the fly. So to start, you're gonna wanna chop your garlic. I think I used maybe 4 out of the 5 cloves that are there, but you can use as much as your heart desires, because in my opinion, there's never too much garlic in a dish. So once the garlic is chopped, you're gonna wanna move on to the pandemic parsley. And I say that because the leaves look a little bit sad. There wasn't much left in the grocery store, just based on the current time that we're in right now. So you wanna rip off the top leaves. You can use some stems as well. It gives great flavor, but the leaves are really where we're gonna use the most. Be sure to like and give it a thumbs up, and subscribe if you haven't already for more videos. So you're just gonna chop it up. I chopped it one way, bunched it up, turned it another way, and then chopped it again, just to give it a little bit more of a finer texture. And I love the freshness and the pop of green color that it brings. I think with the bright red of the cherry tomatoes, it really goes well with this dish. So next you're gonna want to chop up the sausages. I used hot Italian sausages here, but you can use mild or honey garlic. And I like to chop them when they're still a little bit frozen. It just makes more of an even cut, makes it easier, but you can also open the casing and fry the meat that way as well. I was just trying to use whatever we had left over in our fridge and in our cupboards, and this just sort of came out of nowhere. The recipe will be up on our website as well, and you can click the link below in the description to access it. So once the sausage is cut up, you're gonna wanna zest the lemon next. You wanna zest it, but not get too much of the white underneath, because it does get a little bit bitter, and it was giving me a hard time. Yeah.
Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
Thanks, Bruce. So ideally, you would just zest it on the cutting board,
Are you out of your fucking mind?
because at this point you're gonna wanna chop it up just a little bit so that it's a little finer. You don't want big chunks of lemon zest because it can be overpowering depending on how much you get in one bite. And keep in mind, we're not gonna use all of the lemon zest in this. It's just to give a little bit more of a brighter flavor in the sauce. I love the flavor that the lemon zest and the lemon juice bring to this dish. It brightens everything up and pairs really well. I had lemon essence on my hands and I didn't want to touch too much. So now you're gonna want to preheat your pan. I have it at max heat here, but I would advise preheating the pan on max and then turning the heat down just a little bit so that nothing burns in the interim. So you're gonna fry your sausage once the pan is preheated. And you're gonna wanna fry it just until you get some nice color on it. A little bit of brown adds a little more flavor to the dish. So once the sausage has been browned, you're gonna want to remove it from the pan. And at this point, you probably want to turn the heat down a little bit more. And maybe use a spoon instead of a spatula for a more efficient process.
Son of a bitch, Paul, why didn't you just go home? That's your home! Are you too good for your home? Answer me!
So this product that I used is basil sunflower oil from a local farm not too far from where we live here. The video is not sponsored, but it is a product that I really enjoy using. I love the flavor that it brings to the dish. If you don't have basil oil, you can use just regular olive oil instead. And so at this point, you're gonna want to fry the garlic a little bit just to give the oil some more flavor. And you don't want to overcook it. You don't want it to reach a point where it starts to turn brown because it can go from brown to burnt really fast. At this point, you're going to want to rinse the tomatoes just with some cold water. I use cherry tomatoes here. It depends on what brand or where your grocery store gets them from. These tomatoes were a little sweeter. Typically, they are a little brighter in flavor, a little more sour, but it still tasted just as good. So you add them to the pan to fry up with the garlic, and you let it go for a few minutes. And I should note that no garlic was burned in the making of this dish. Next, you're gonna wanna add some chicken stock just to create the base of the sauce and give the tomatoes something to break into. And I love recipes like this that typically only take one pan to cook. It means less dishes, it means less on the stove to keep track of. You can add some salt and pepper to taste and any other seasoning that you think would go well with it as well. So you're gonna wanna let the tomatoes cook for about 5 to 10 minutes, and that's just so that they open up, release a lot of their juice, a lot of their flavor. Shout out to Kirklewood Farms for giving us or selling us the oil. We learned about them at a craft show here that we went to a couple years ago and really love the products that they sell. So here I'm just mashing the tomatoes that are a little bit softer to break them open to release some of their juices. And you're gonna wanna add the sausage back to the pan as well. This ensures that it cooks all the way through, but also picks up some of the flavor that you have been able to build in the pan. So next you're gonna wanna fill a pot with water to start boiling for the pasta. So you can see here that most of the tomatoes have started to break open and create a sauce. Shout out to my new tasting spoons. Don't forget to salt your pasta water. It adds just a little more flavor to your pasta and makes everything taste better. At this point, you're gonna wanna add the lemon juice. You can squeeze it in a strainer, you can squeeze it over your hand. That's just what I like to do best. It's a lot faster and it catches the seeds as well. Makes a little bit of a brighter flavor, gives a little more tang to the sauce, and just goes really well with the tomatoes and the sausage. So again, you just want to check for seasoning to make sure that there's enough salt, maybe add a little more pepper, maybe some garlic powder or some Italian seasoning would go really well in this as well. And And so once the water is boiling, you can add your pasta. I used whole wheat pasta. I really like the flavor. I like the texture of it as well, but you can use any pasta that you wish. Next, you're gonna add about half a cup of Parmesan cheese. You can use, just regular grated Parmesan cheese if that's in your fridge. I used a little bit thicker Parmesan cheese that's been grated, and then you're gonna add the lemon zest. And I didn't add all of it. Like I said, it can be overpowering. I added just a little bit to give it some flavor. The cheese also tightens the sauce a little bit and brings it together a little more, thickens it. And so you're gonna let the pasta cook for about 8 to 10 minutes as well, until al dente or just a little bit before, because you are going to finish cooking the pasta in the sauce. So once the pasta is to the point that I like, I add it to the pan to finish cooking in the sauce. And then you just mix it all together. That looks so good. Makes me want to eat it again. And then you add your pandemic parsley that we chopped at the beginning. Again, like I said, it brings a pop of color, goes really well with the flavor of the sauce, the sausages, and the pasta. The recipe link will be in the description below, so be sure to click that and check out the recipe.
Tango down!
And so now it's time to plate. And so I just add a little more parsley on the top for presentation, but you can omit that and keep what you have in there. And depending on how hungry you are, will depend on how much you add to your plate. At this point, you can add some more Parmesan cheese. You can sprinkle a little more pepper on top. You could even chop up some fresh basil and add that as well if you wanted to do that instead of the parsley. They both go really well with this. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to like and give it a thumbs up, and subscribe if you haven't already for more videos.